closer.
Now you have to hold it like to muffle it. Use your whole hand
Over
around it
Well, around like this.
to muffle, so it's not so ringy.
Oh.
And just open your hand up and shut it.
Oh, I got you. Oh, now I'm getting it. Yeah. Oh, nice. I can't.
Try this one. This one's a little easier. Let's just do two here and then two up there.
Okay.
Slower, slower.
Oh.
I'm just trying to dampen it a little bit.
Yeah.
Ready? Try that one. Yeah. So
Cool.
let's take your thumb so that it'll ring out a little more. Just
Okay.
move it back. Now this will.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Whoop, that was four. Anyway,
Anyway,
it's
yeah.
fun. Yeah. Lots of fun.
Okay. So what's interesting is that we have cultural default rhythms.
Uh-huh.
We go to a certain rhythm in our culture. Bruce Lee saw right through this. He said, you want to defeat your opponent, all you have to do is break their rhythm. So he could see the rhythm that all these martial artists had trained to just by the way they move.
Uh-huh.
And then he could do that rhythm, lock them into it, and step out of it, tag them, and they couldn't even see it coming because they were locked into their culturally imprinted learning patterns. And that's the way the human learns, rhythmically repetition. So when you get to cowbell, you can look at the history of, say, the clave, the Latin percussion structure, the foundation for all Latin stuff. And you can see how it comes out of, hey, come on in. Yeah, we'll clear that.
Okay.
Get started in here.
How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Garvin.
How are you?
I'm
I don't
good.
see you. I didn't recognize you there for a second.
I expected you didn't. And you
Good to
do.
see you.
Huh?
Yeah, that's looks great.
Thanks.
Looks great.
You want one of those things?
Yeah, I think I got it. Thank you very much.
So Garvin would be a good one to talk to about the cowbell rhythms. You were just going over rhythms.
Oh. Well, I can share whatever I can share with you. Sure. I just know a few of the basic.
Uh-huh.
The only one I learned was from a Brazilian record.
Black Orpheus.
Yeah,
That one.
Uh-huh.
And that was just by trying to listen to the record.
Good for you, yeah.
You know.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's apochet.
Well, we're gonna try it. I mean,
It's very similar to
We're
the
gonna go slow.
samba.
We'll do it real slow.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Go ahead.
oh,
These are from Brazil, by the way.
this is from. So we're gonna do two down here?
Okay.
So it's. Just do that one. And then we're gonna end. So after this. So. So let's just do
Oh,
that.
okay.
Right, you had, I stopped, but go ahead, we'll do something. Okay, so we'll slow,
Okay.
so just do,
Okay,
stop there.
okay.
Cool, we'll do it again. We'll just do that a couple
All right.
times, ready?
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
all right, so I guess we gotta
stop.
finish it. So let's just do, we'll just do this
Oh.
part.
Excuse me.
Calm down.
Okay.
Right, right. So now we're trying to,
Okay.
so it's,
Ooh,
we'll get it,
Okay.
ready? Slowly.
okay. Oh, okay.
Here we go, one more time, here we go. Keep
Is
going,
it
so
one,
just keep,
1, 2?
it's,
Oh, it's 1, 2, 3.
right.
Okay.
So let's just do that, just do
Okay.
that. So just do 2 on this and then those 3 there.
Okay.
Ah, yeah, this one is, instead of just,
Yeah,
the
the
it's-
second one,
so let's
Okay.
just practice that, just that.
all right. Oh,
Or
wait,
just go,
okay.
that's it.
That
Okay,
it?
but it's getting tense.
Right,
No, so
exactly.
just relax, so just,
Okay.
okay, so it's,
Maybe I'll-
ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. I got another stick here. So, just that part.
Okay. Up.
Ba-bum.
Get some water.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
Look,
Alright, let's try it, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 cameras.
Nice.
2 cameras
Cool.
keep going.
Great.
Very
It's just,
Okay.
ready, go.
Okay. Keep doing.
So, from the
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 1, 2,
Oh,
and
okay.
then we're gonna go to that next one, ready?
All right.
You
Okay.
gonna join us? Got it? Here we go.
Ready? Steady? Go.
Here. I think you may be
I'm
ready.
so excited.
Found?
This is yours.
Yeah?
Is this yours?
Yeah.
That's yours.
Yeah.
That's the stars.
It knocks me out. It should do that.
Really?
It should do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah. That's
You gotta stop, take a look at, where you come from.
That's right.
The hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You can hear it.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
we got a loop, we have a loop from the internet. This, I check in on, off of my blog page, my website, buddyhum.com. So you see the camera cut? You see, we got a technical director working now.
Nice.
Oh.
And now this is the inaugural 2-camera show. And so I timed it so it's pretty slow. There's no exotic camera work yet, but I couldn't resist.
Is that my head?
Yeah, that's
It looked like I had brushes in my hand.
it's the light was shining on the
Oh, okay. Okay.
cowbell that you had.
Oh, I got it.
First time I saw the back of my head
Uh-huh.
was in a Robert Altman movie when they were having the dailies, and it was the most traumatic event of my life because I had a bald head. No, it wasn't that small. It was about 3 feet across, and I felt terrible. I went, oh my God! And I got up and I staggered out of the screening room, and Altman comes out and he's got a beer in one hand and a joint. You know, he goes, "You okay?" And I went, I've never seen the back of my head before. Totally understand. They cued the action off of me, and I didn't realize it. He was shooting a big sound stage, you know, and the band was showcasing, and the actors were going from one table of food to the other and doing their bits. And so at one point he said, wherever he goes, follow him and then do the scene. Because I was completely like ticked off because I wasn't in the band. You know, they brought me as like supposed to be in the band. I wasn't in the band, so I was going to hang out. It's like I don't want to hang out if I'm going to be, because the band was good. Tony Berg was the musical director, and he went on to become the president of Arista Records. You know, and everybody else. You know, good. You know, all friends. And they said, "Oh no, Alden, you gotta get Buddy in a band." You know, no. And he really so. Like when they were watching the dailies, they said, "Guess who knows where the camera is?" And I had no idea. He was shooting. You know, he had 8 cameras going, and he had hidden microphones everywhere. And it was a full sound stage, full of food, total Hollywood hangers on. You know, all the trend, you know, the people making the parties. It was called Perfect Romance, I think. It was the one that never went to DVD, he said. Yeah, I saw him in a party like decades later up in Topanga. Somebody said they needed, you know, it was a blues band and needed a drummer like right away. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So Allman's sitting there, you know. And so we got to talking. We were talking about Kansas City, that movie he did about the jazz.
Yeah.
And I said, I was Big Joe Turner's drummer. Yeah, yeah. Now, the more you can tilt that drum a little bit more back so the foot goes back just over there. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, yeah. Now this tone, right? This tone is in the middle of the djembe head, full hand, no special technique. And the meditation is to getting as much tone up and out of the drum from as little violence as possible. Because a lot of the guys are going to go really hard. And the traditional African teachers, right, they tell you to come from here. Don't listen to them. Because what we're doing in this culture is entirely different. I watched Baba Olatunji, his hands disintegrate. By the time he was, you know, an old man, his fingers were in terrible shape. They ended up amputating his fingers. And he still played. So I said, I'm not going to go there. So that whole approach, traditional African, I have great respect for it. But it leads to this incredible damage when you play that hard. And the way they teach, they usually end up saying stuff like harder, faster, louder, you know, because that's the way they were taught. And that's their tradition, you know. It's going to be outdoors. You'll hear it for 5 miles. we're in a totally different situation here. So we're coming up with something different as we invent it, because it's us inventing it. So I tell people, don't be shy about your own sense of rhythm, you know? Because you are actually inventing the sacred rhythms for this culture as we do this. It's not a master teacher inventing. Usage dictates, as in any language. Usage dictates what is acceptable grammar. And that's exactly what's happening in drum. So this particular basic pattern, no matter what culture you're in, will be able to relate to this pattern. You could be in Greece, and they would give you a glass of ouzo because you know their local Sirtu rhythm. And the same would happen in the jungles in Borneo, or whatever it became called, you know, Myanmar, as well as Brazil, as well as, you know, at the Four Corners, as well as East Philadelphia and Macon, Georgia, and of course, New Orleans. So this is actually, you can go any direction. Maya Bingi, right? Like this really famous percussionist was brought in to, you know, meet me. This was like about 4 or 5 months ago, and he was with the Rolling Stones. He, you know, he was the guy that did that, you know, Sympathy for the Devil stuff, you know. Nice guy, but totally into his, you know, character. He had the little whisk broom, you know, the African whisk broom to keep the flies away and all that. Sweet guy. And we're sitting there talking about everybody, like gossiping, you know. And I was trying to explain to him how simple this really was. And how incredibly simple just supporting the downbeat was, and how important it was to our culture. And I played this, and he immediately went to his cultural reference, called it Maya Bingi. And I said, yeah, it's Maya Bingi, but it's also second line, you know, New Orleans. He goes, yeah. You know, he's there, but if he were to teach, he wouldn't call it the downbeat. You know, he would teach it from his traditional African, you know, approach. That's why I decided not to teach traditional African or Afro-Cuban, because it's like, no matter how good I get, I'm still going to be a tourist. And so that goes for everybody that I teach. No matter how good you get, you're still going to be a tourist. And that's fine. But when you're playing traditional African, you got to take that into consideration. Or even Brazilian. You've got to, like, allow for your own cultural presets. Because your ear only hears certain ways. You've got to really work at it to change the way your ear listens. And you'll be playing a part, and you think you're right, until someone says, no, that's not right. It goes like this. You go, really? And that's humbling. It's humbling for the ear. And I tell people the ear is the laziest part of the body. It hears what it wants to hear. So what we're doing here is we're tricking the intellect into letting us play. Because the intellect is so busy judging that it interferes with us just being able to rhythmically express ourselves. So a lot of the rhythms that we try to learn, the intellect won't let us grasp the full the full rhythmic structure unless we're totally trained and we hang it on a paradigm that we know, such as, okay, that's a 16, that's a dotted 8, then it goes to the 3/4 time, then it goes to the 4/8 time, and then it goes to the 3/6 time. You know, it's like, and so it's like totally intellectual. And that's the way I grew up, reading music, metronome, correct, had all the medals. You know? And then when I ended up playing the blues, when I was 13 years old, I ended up deep south, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. That's not drumming. That's, you're good, but that ain't it. So feel. I had to understand feel. What does that mean? Feel is when it's creating an energy that entices the body into moving. And you know it when you get it. And you also know it when you don't get it. So like right now, we're sort of cooking along, and your body's sort of relaxed. It's going, yeah, I like this. It's okay. Not a big deal. Yeah, I can do this. Now, if you were to start to lay on the cowbell part, okay, now you got a choice. You can go traditional and be like classically correct and put that Brazilian cowbell part on top. Or you can go like Afro-Cuban and put that cowbell part on top. Totally different. Hey! This is Chuck. This is Kathy. I got your stand and your drum. That's yours, right? Maybe are you guys getting warm? We can crack that back there. You're okay? So I used to teach like that, you know, like write it out. This is how we play it. In order to teach that way, though, the person has to learn that language, the musical language. So that's an intellectual detour. From your feel, because your rhythm is your feel. Your sense of rhythm is a survival tool. It's part of your basic operating system. It's the first sense that becomes aware in the world, is your sense of rhythm. And we've discounted our sense of rhythm as a survival sense. They say 5 senses, right? The sense of rhythm is not in those 5 senses, right? What is it? Sight, smell, sound, taste, hearing. Yet, we have the phrase in our language, sense of rhythm. So you get where I'm going with this. There's a dysfunctional disconnect in our psyche, our cultural psyche, with our sense of rhythm. We're in denial. Why? It goes back to the Dark Ages. Yeah. It goes back to when the Roman legions came across Europe. And they came into contact with every tribe. And what did they do? They killed the drummers. Burned them at the stake. Said, and if we catch you dancing and hitting the drum, especially on a full moon or a new moon, it's nothing personal, but we're going to have to put you to fire on the stake. So, that was the method, primary method, to unify Europe. Christianity. Well, it worked. But as a price, we have this hole in our being where we're missing our sacred rhythms.
You're replacing it with marching
exactly, exactly.
That's your rudiments. You learn
Yeah,
as a kid,
exactly,
right?
exactly. How you doing? You got some water? Oh, you got the chai? Okay, ready? Gotta open up and sing, ready? He got my in Chicago, and he's been drumming in Chicago. He's been motivated after getting that book. Okay, here we go. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Ah, yeah. What that? Ah, yeah. You can rotate it towards you a little bit more. Ah, yeah. Good. Ah, yeah. Keep going. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Ah, welcome, powers of the East. 4 times. Welcome, powers of the East. Welcome, powers of the East. Welcome, powers of the East. Welcome, powers of the South. 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 Welcome, powers of the West. 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 Welcome, powers of the North. 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 Welcome, powers of the sky. 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 Welcome, powers of the earth. 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 Welcome, powers of the sea. 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 Welcome, powers within me. Welcome, powers within me. Welcome, powers within me. Welcome, powers within me. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Circle Circle, John, round. Circle, John, round. Power brought down. Power brought down. Power brought down. Power brought down. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Sacred vows. Sacred vows. Sacred vows. Sacred vows. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Whoa, blessing coming to us right now. Thank you for all of these blessings coming to us right now. Keep going. Pick up the pace here. A woman came in, they just moved from Manhattan. They'd been here less than 2 weeks. And she was like, I can't believe how cold it is here. Good to see you. You too. So the big
Go
ending,
back to the fist.
yeah, bump, knuckle bump.
Oh,
But if you take nothing else with you back to the Windy City, it's the big ending.
yeah.
Use the big ending. What that's doing is pulling everybody's psychological energy back in after the journeying, and that was a problem with a lot of drumming groups. They would, and their endings weren't together, and there was, generally is what happens, and it's that quick. You get one chance, and it's like unless you know the lead drummer and the signals that they may put out, you're gonna miss it. Because and most of the time you so what that's actually doing is create a psychotic break because people are not resolving the experience psychologically and physically. And I go back to the old rhythm and blues and the jazz tradition. When there's improvisation, people are in trance, the players and the audience. But you can't leave them in trance by just abruptly ending the song. The audience would get very upset, especially if you're playing at the Blue Note, It's like, you can't do that. There's etiquette here. Reason for that is that when we journey, when we experience art and music, part of us goes out to higher realms of vibrational consciousness, feeding, getting nurtured. Then it has to come back to the body, to this mundane level of vibration, and assimilate that into wisdom and experience on this earthly plane. If you just go woo, 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 and you'll end the drumming group without reintegration, you have not only a psychotic break in the psychology of the people who are experiencing that, but in terms of energetics, you're actually leaving the portals open for this unmonitored transaction of energies between other dimensions and our dimensions. In other words, you don't want them to follow you home. You want them to go back where they belong, and you shut the door. They're good for a moment, you interrelate, but then when it's done, song's over, the groove's done, you go back to your realm, and we're here on ours. So the big ending, really important, because it brings everybody back. So this is Qigong. This is like Curandera, the soul retrieval. I'm back in. Come hear me. This is me. And Bruce Lee used to do this. It's like, and it's like, you want to mess with me? Bring it on. So it's like, it's all these different things when people do this, and it's in African, it's Greek. I mean, it's all over the world. So, but it pulls us back in, especially after we've been hitting a drum and we're spread out like that. So when I come back to the beginning, it's like this. If you ever go to a jazz club, at the end of a really hot, improvisation, everybody's cooking, the leader of the band does this. Well, that means back to the head, play the melody, then we're out of here. So he goes, everybody says, all right. And they come back the next time through the chord progression, they play the melody, and they know that, and then the song ends. Everybody's happy. The audience gets to clap. This is the other part of it. The audience needs to be in the band. That's why they're there. That's why they put their money down. And I learned this from Chuck Berry. We sucked sometimes when I was a drummer. And he said, it doesn't matter, okay? I'm Chuck Berry, first of all. Second of all, as long as we have a good ending, everybody's going to be fine. They're going to know where to clap, and that's how they get to be in the band. That's why their money goes down, because they want to be in a band, and that's their fantasy, and you do it, and boom, you give them now, and then they do their part. You got to do that, So it's like, all of that made sense energetically to the point now, from a shamanistic point of view, that these are all dynamics that really have not a whole lot to do with metaphysics per se, but it affects the metaphysical experience, because the drum, creates that channel, but you got to be careful because there's dynamics. It's like, nuclear energy. There's certain parameters you got to deal
with magic, you gotta know how to start, change, and stop.
Yeah. So and now tilt your drum a little bit now, so you make sure you get that deep tone out of the bottom.
All right.
Yeah. So where are we? Oh yeah. Okay. Now tell everybody, there's only 2 beats in the whole universe.
It's switching.
What?
It's switching.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Took me 3 days to figure that thing out. I used to hire people to do that sort of thing. It's like, okay, go in there and switch the show. So this is all automatic.
It's a time.
Right. There's a delay because we're cycling through. The other computer is recording us, the new computer in the back. And so then this is my website monitoring it. So there's a lag of about at least 50, depending on the time of day and the amount of traffic on the infomercial highway, it's probably 15, 20-second delay. So that way we get a sound check.
Yeah.
You know, when we're done, I turned the sound down because it was a little disconcerting. I always tell the story that we got a sound check. I did an album with Big Joe Turner. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. And each time we finished a track, you know, we got $25. This is down Watts and Chess Records. And, you know, and Big Joe, wouldn't move much. He'd sit there and about this close to me with a baffle, and I was on the kit. And so, and then he'd play it back through the big speakers. You know, we could listen out in the big room. And we'd listen, you know, and I wanted to know what Big Joe had to say. You know, it's like, you know, and he goes, buddy, you got to beat the kid like to dance too. Here it is, you know, because he didn't have any teeth, and like we got on really well. And he introduced me to the griot. I mean, I always instinctively knew about that tradition, but for him to speak in that storytelling with the groove that was like the download, one of the downloads. It's like, oh, this is ancient. So kind of like up to that point, I didn't realize that this is where it was going, but that was definitely part of the moments, one of the moments that guided us to this now, because he would tell stories. And I'm just, so the groove that I usually played behind him was this blues groove, which was based on the 3. So it's like, when I teach this, I go, okay, first of all, you don't have to worry about hand sequence, right? But once you get it, then if you start to work on the hand sequence, then you go to a different level, not a higher level, a different level of ability, manifesting, conjuring ability, shamanistic virtuosity. So, plus, when you get this hand sequence correct, don't worry about it. The brain, the frontal part of the brain, front cortex, starts to cooperate with itself. Both hemispheres start to go into synchronization, parallel processing. This is where the shaman state really resides. And you can trace this rhythm back to the indigenous cultures all over the world, from Africa to Ireland. And they all use it for the same reasons, to go into a specific kind of transformational state that's between the dimensions. This rhythm, for some reason, puts the human into that in-between state where you can relate to other dimensions very easily. You never know what you're going to get, but this is a carrier wave that creates protective energy for the human. And theories about why that is, part because of the rhythmic sequencing. When you go back and forth like this, the brain hemispheres go into synchronization based on mirrored hand activity. So when you're doing mirrored hand activity like this, something happens, and we don't know what it is. But as a result, probably the pineal gland gets really active, and the emotions start to calm down. That's what's interesting about it. And we can trace that tendency back to Africa as well as Ireland, because this is a survival groove. This groove was the blues, original blues groove in New Orleans, the slow Delta blues. That's what this is. And the reason was that that was the survival groove that came over on the slave ships. And they were allowed to play it in New Orleans, no place else. And that's why New Orleans is the birthplace of the blues. and jazz, and rhythm and blues, and rock and roll, and basically the world as we know it. Based off this rhythm. So this rhythm has inherent survivability. This groove will carry the human out into the universe. It will propel ships. It has already. Because when the slave ships were foundering in the storms coming across in the Middle Passage, the slaves were allowed to have their drums, and they played this rhythm. And they sang. They sang the traditional survival songs. And as far as they were concerned, they were keeping that boat afloat. So the son of the slave ship owner, up on deck, petrified, he's going to die, he's going to drown. He hears the melody and the rhythm, and he's moved to inspiration. Huh, what a coincidence. He's moved to the point where he actually composes a song, right? And this is it. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound to save a wretch like me. Once I was lost, but now I found. I was blind, but now I see. And he was transformed and became a devout abolitionist when he landed in Virginia and kissed the earth and swore he would never participate in slavery again. So there's something in this particular group that has something in it that humans have always used to get on over it. Right? Yeah. Yeah, dear great-great-great-grandfather. Ricky Strauss. My grandmother was a Strauss. Yeah. Yeah, we were related. Lily Strauss.
Oh, I like that.
But my favorite song of this group, when the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I just remember the things that I love, and then I don't feel so sad. It was good enough for Miles, good enough for me. Also the foundation for Wawanko, the Sensoria, Afro-Cuban. The drum rhythm coming out of the Yoruba culture with the slaves was using the African Yoruba gods as focusing worship for the slaves, right? So when it arrived in the Caribbean, it had to combine and hide itself because it was non-Christian. So they combined it with the Catholic imagery and pretended to be worshiping the Catholic saints. And they had made altars and played these rhythms while they were singing. A mixture of Spanish and Yoruba and dialect. Plantation owners approved. So they're praying. They're playing with their drums. They're praying to our saints. smart one there. Evolving into a secret religion. A double, triple layered religion that only the initiates knew about. So it was a mystery school. It's based off this rhythm. This is the foundation. So when you do the clave in 6, then you get into it. Powerful stuff. Los Muñequitos, among others. And I love this rhythm because you can really mess with it. You can do all sorts of weird stuff with it, and it still holds together. Like, for instance, just as a beginner, I'll put the tambourine in a different time signature. I love this. And you'll hear this in American Indian, part of the ghost dance, where they put the bells on their ankles and stomp this rhythm against this rhythm. For a long time. It creates trance. You stay here. I'm so pleased with myself. I forced YouTube to do something that it did not want to do. It says, you can't do that. I said, yes, you can. Just try. Isn't that cool? I think it's wash away, wash away, wash away pain, 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 wash away, wash away, wash away pain. Wash away, wash away, wash away fear. 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 Wash away, wash wash away, wash away fear, wash away, 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 wash away, wash away fear. Wash away, wash away, wash away stress. 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 Wash away, wash away, wash away illness. Wash away, wash away, wash away illness. Wash away, wash away, wash away illness. Wash away, wash away illness. Wash away, 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 wash away illness. Wash away, wash away, wash away illness. Wash away, wash away, wash away. Wash, 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 wash away illness. Wash, wash, wash illness. Wash, wash, wash illness. Wash, wash, wash illness. Wash, wash, wash illness. Wash, 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 wash. last one. Oh, I'm thinking of your daughter, you know. If she got intimidated by her boyfriend who's a drummer, she really needs to come in here.
Yeah, this would change all that.
I've heard that story. Yeah, my boyfriend is a drummer. Oh, I'm really sorry. You know, it's like,
It didn't work out on so many levels.
yeah. Need I count the ways?
Sweetie, will you hand me my keys for a second? I have to run out and get some stuff going out. Some more.
Okay, where are you parked in the back?
I'm gonna go. Yeah. Yeah, just a little gum stuff. It'll be fine.
Go, Chuck, go! Oh, you want to go? Okay, all right. We are so lucky. 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 Okay, here's an exercise. When I say stop, just hit the down beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, stop, boom. And this will do the stop time. Boom, clap their hand. Boom, one more. Boom, back into the groove. Okay, I'll take the first one. That's another one. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, stop. Everybody. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was the affirmation. We are fearless. Oh, yeah, good. So I've done that with like 30, 40 drummers, and it goes around everybody. And it's always fun. It's always a surprise.
It's terrifying even when you're just doing the CD in your bedroom. First times, I mean, I survived this one, but I didn't survive so well in the,
I sensed that was a point of an issue maybe for you.
Yeah, right.
So what's exciting about this is that it's a transformational experience for a lot of people, and they come out the other side having survived an ordeal of fire, because the belief system tricks us into believing that this is something important. It's just a drum. But the belief system makes these assumptions that are incorrect, that there's a life and death situation here. So the adrenaline pumps, the blood pressure goes up, skin flushes, muscle tension, peripheral comes down, all the things that create an autistic human being. And that's been a study with police, when they're stressed, that's where they go. As a result, the studies in New York City about unwarranted shootings of civilians that were unarmed by the police, especially detectives, who were undercover and unexplainably opened fire on somebody sitting on the front porch.
Yeah, I read that.
So what they concluded was that stress creates an autistic phenomenon in many people, and that they can't think clearly. Now, from a drummer's point of view, that it's a common occurrence, because we can witness how the belief system creates a sense of emergency with absolutely no sound reason. But the reason it's doing that is because it thinks it's doing the right thing. It thinks it's triggering fear responses because it's been conditioned into doing that for about 350,000 years. Plus, the rhythms of the technology are sending off alarm signals all the time. Mechanical drum machines are biggest perpetrator, creating a sense of not being on time, being late, not surviving. So this unforgiving computerized drum machine has created an overall sense of struggle, fear, trying to catch up, trying to be in sync. Because we entrain on such a basic level to the environmental rhythms that if we're not in sync with a stupid drum machine, we're afraid we're going to not survive, because it goes way back, to the connecting to the rhythms of the environment back when they were very slow rhythms. So that mechanism now is completely haywire and overstimulated. So people feeling fear have lost the ability to think clearly, because the brain is distracting them with scenarios of possible calamity. And it thinks it's doing the right thing. That's the paradox. So one way to bring us out of that fear-based perception of the world is actually doing this roller coaster of slowing the tempo down. And it's part of the therapy. And we don't always do it in the workshops, but I'll do it tonight just so you get a sense of it. It's like really cooking. If you're up to this tempo, this is kind of like, let's have lunch. We can work on that 3-picture deal. By the way, did you talk to your attorney about that other? Oh, okay, concerning the stocks, we're going to have to move them. We got to hide that money, okay? So on and on, right? Everybody's okay, and I'll talk to you a little bit, get my secretary to have lunch with your secretary. Okay, so we're up at this tempo. Things just coming and going all the time. So our belief system makes the assumption that this is normal and this is the way the humans are supposed to function. Now get on the downbeat and come back and forth. Get both hands going. Back and forth. And come up quick so you get the tone. Okay. Now what is your, just in and out, same hand. Yeah. Get the high note. Same hand. There you go. Good. Okay. Now, pretty simple activity, right? Once you realize it, right? But what was happening in the intellect was fear and distraction. Criticism, self-image, self-esteem, all this weirdness going on had absolutely nothing to do with drumming. So you see, you witness how the intellectual critical mind gets in the way of any creative activity, even when you're, reading parts. And it thinks it's well-intentioned. So what we have to do is find a way to get control of that critical, busy squirrel in a cage. Okay, so the meditation teachers, recite the mantra. Well, that's an intellectual activity. Now slow the tempo. Stay strong, but slow the tempo. Back and forth. Okay. Suddenly what happens right here? It's like, the body changes. Suddenly you're breathing deeper. Muscle tension starts to relax. The lungs open up. You shrug. What happens when the body recognizes that the environment is slowing down? It jettisons what it doesn't need. Fear, tension, anger. But you really have to slow it down for those things to let go. And most humans in a modern culture, they don't want to go any slower than this. Because that belief system is preventing them from letting go of all the imperatives that it thinks it needs, such as tension, fear, speed, all that stuff. Now, and the belief system also sees that as we do this, we are changing the belief system. Come up quick. Come up quick. Yeah. See, that's another assumption by the belief system. And you weren't even aware of it. The tone is what we need in the body. But that's a self-defeating. By muffling the tone, we don't get the benefit. So that's an assumption by the belief system that that's the way it's supposed to be. No, it's not. So we monitor the belief system all the time as a drummer. Is it interfering? Yes, probably is. So what we do then is slowly open up territory where we are free to express creativity in whatever mode without the intellectual critical mind stepping in and saying, let me control this situation. What we're playing from here as we slow down the tempo even more, we're playing from our instincts, from our body wisdom, which the intellect does not understand. Intellect does not really understand rhythm. Slow it down even more. That's why commercials use soundtracks. That's how you trick people into buying things that they don't need. You use rhythm in the soundtrack. Because rhythm is the carrier wave that our belief system learns from. So anything that comes into the belief system in a repeated manner, trauma, stress, injury, good times, it all gets programmed into the belief system because it's a repeated event, rhythm. So then when we've acquired trauma rhythm, trauma loops of these events, they play and they won't stop, driving people crazy. This is one of the few ways to get those loops to stop playing, because you're overriding that dysfunctional groove with a positive life enhancing, which you are doing yourself. The tricky part of it is to remember to let go and slow down and let it all go. Come up with that tone, yeah. So what this type of drumming does is it shows us how the intellect, belief system, the survival mechanisms of the brain function, completely independent of our better judgment. When you drum, you're playing from a place of actual honesty and truth and presence. You're present when you play like this. So you witness those parts of the intellect doing stuff. And as a result, when you put the spotlight on it, it goes, oh, you caught me. And it changes. It changes its behavior. It's like watching yourself on video. As soon as you see yourself on video, your behavior changes. I don't like that. That's how MTV got started. We were shooting nightclubs in Hollywood, and people were just smashed, you know, and then we run it in the club the next weekend. And they go, oh my God, that's terrible. So the nightclub turned into like a recovery center. And it was the video feedback, the loop. So this is a loop. This is a feedback. You're getting a biofeedback. Because you see how hard it is to slow down? See how the tendency is to push the tempo back up? That's free-floating fear. So we have to overcome that by consciously letting go. Nice watch. So I'm not advocating slow tempos. I'm saying that we need to remember how to do that. Plus the traditional rhythm of blues is like funky. But it's also the vehicle for getting into the subconscious and actually rhythmically reprogramming how our brain works. So this is shamanistic, but it's also psychotherapeutic. You're really in another realm there doing this sort of thing with a human. You know, when two people like when you do the drum therapy one-on-one, that's all they do, even slower. And then when we get all the way down, and we can usually tell, you know, when the person's feeling really safe, this is absolutely not a challenge for them. They're settling in, and their whole system says, well, gee, this seems like a safe environment. I guess maybe I can, like, dump some of this anxiety that I've got. And then they talk. And they talk about their condition, the situation, or what they went through while they hit the drum. And then neuro-linguistic programming concepts, you can rhythmically changing the emotional charge on that trauma history just by hitting the drum. You don't succumb in conventional psychotherapy. You're passive. You talk about it, and you're passive. You're not physically doing anything. Here, you talk about it, and you hit a drum, and you're physically making an effect in connection to that loop, that memory. And it changes the memory. So it doesn't have the same negative, paralyzing, distracting, emotional charge on it. So it doesn't keep repeating. You settle in. I'm amazed people can get up and function after hearing what they've been through. You know, heroes. Humans are heroes. Children, heroes. We're all heroes. You know, we got here. We're here. So far, you're a hero. So the drum then becomes an archetypal tool. Jung, Joe Campbell. The hero's journey, the hero's tool, creates the recognition of the hero in us. And when that happens, we connect to a stronger self, our stronger self. Because this opens up the channels. And when these channels are open, there's no distraction that you would have walking around on the street. This keeps that channel, the pulse keeps the channel open. So the universe can download the new consciousness. But you got to lay it back. You can't push. Because the fear shuts down that channel. Now, once you get good at this, you can really cook and speed up and still keep that channel open. But for the most part, this seems to be. And then when we go into like healing the inner child, we go even deeper, slowing this even further. And when we come down to this tempo, we go deep and connect to the inner child, who's totally separated and estranged from us as an adult, because they had to make that break. When there was trauma events in childhood, the child said, I've got to separate. I'm going to stay here, hold off the bad guys. You get out of here while you can. Grow up, live your life, forget about me. So the child is in that foxhole on the battlefield and made the conscious choice to stay there. So you got to like, thank you very much, because you helped me survive. But problem is, the child has these gifts that the adult needs. Joy, love, creativity, spontaneous, this awe, all the great things that children have, and the adult is hungry for, feeling life is gray. So by slowing down, the child says, you know what? Talk is cheap, heard it all, but the drum, kind of cool, like that, that's that. So we use the drum to get into the child's energy field. And it trusts the drum, because all children like drums. So as long as we're not aggressive with it, the child is going to be open to changing the energy dynamic between the inner child and the adult. Because we're not selling it. We're not using words. We're coming in through the heart. So the inner child says, okay, what are you doing? Where are you going with this? And that's when the adult says, okay, we're going to cut a new deal here while we still can. And you tell the child, you're safe with me now. You're safe with me now. You're safe with me. Down, lay it down. You're safe with me now. Just let it go. You're safe with me now. You're safe with me now. Slower. You're safe with me now. You're safe with me. Real slow. You're safe with me now. You're safe with me. Real slow. You're safe with me now. You're safe with me now. Real slow. You're safe with me now. Okay, last one. Send it home. You're safe with me now. Normally I've got a shaker. I don't know where the shaker is. So, yeah, there, yeah. Okay, yeah.
There we go.
So what's happening now is that the energy field is open and you are receiving a download. And this goes and stores in your hard drive. And this is a definition of this new relationship between you and your inner child. And this is where you and the inner child are united. Neither of you are alone anymore. And there's a new understanding, a new sense of safety and trust. And as a result, the children can give the adults the gifts that the adult needs, and the adult can give care to the child, which is what the child needs. So it's a bonding, and the person is no longer alone. So this is a definition that is in your language, and it'll open on its own. It's in your hard drive, and when it opens, you'll get it. You go, oh, that's what that was all about. Okay. So that's a form of rhythmic yeah, exactly. That's what happens. Yeah. So, so anyway, now tilt your drum, get it back up under the angle. Yeah. So yeah, pull it in, pull the whole rig in a little bit more. Get the deep tone. Yeah. The drum tilts a little bit more. Right there we go. Okay. So that then, once we've accomplished that, and most people, they have a different dynamic inside their recollection section of the brain, and they don't suffer from such a distraction. You know, the loops, yeah, just yeah. So so we found a way to break those loops, which is amazing breakthrough for people who are borderline, because actually it's a skill that people have learned when they were young. There's in terms of drum therapy, which is shamanic too, in the sense that the person is disassociating from their body because of the stress they're experiencing now, but it was a learned skill when they were a child. They disassociate from their body when they were in an abusive situation or whatever when they were a child. So they learned this skill, and now it's a full-blown skill as an adult, and they can't control it. So they disassociate from their body, and they check out, and they're just not in their body for hours, weeks. The drum, this downbeat, has brought them back, and you can't understand how important this is. Because I want you to understand, sometimes I would be completely checked out for days, and it happened when we were doing this, when we did the inner child, but I said, I'm not gone. I'm here. I'm hitting the drum. I'm here. You know, and it's like, people, I need this drum, you know. And they,
yeah, I know.
So now we're going to take the triplet and all the way up to the power groove. I tell people this is the most powerful groove you can play. That's it. That's okay. Baba Olatunji, this was the first groove that Baba would teach. But he didn't teach it like this. He would show the notes. Okay, but you see what happened there? The intellect gets in there and tries to the notes, right? And I was witnessing that in Baba's students. They were struggling. I said, there's no reason for you to struggle with this groove.
Yeah,
right. So I said, you know what, Baba? I said, in our culture, this is a blues shuffle. And when we hear it as a blues shuffle. They have traditional African words for it. So, you're doing good. You're fine. This is pretty brisk. You ready to sing the national anthem? This is my national anthem. On the road and your hands upon the wheel. Keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the you ever go up to the Roadhouse back in the day, up in Topanga, the Topanga Roadhouse?
No,
Whatever.
maybe I did once.
I would think you would frequent, maybe once, yeah.
Maybe once I went up there. Yeah, I remember. They shot pool.
Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
like a cowboy bar?
It was, yeah, it's a
At one
California, California cowboy bar up in Topanga where everybody played, back,
Oh,
in the
okay.
day. So when Morrison wrote that song about driving up there that night for the Doors to play at the Roadhouse before it burned down. The local stores did. They were sick of it. They were parking and drunk and got out of hand. But it was a great club.
No, I wasn't a frequenter. I think I did.
I knew better, but I worked at it. I played like with Pacific Gas and Electric, remember them?
God, I might even still have one of their albums. Seriously.
Charlie, yeah. I forget.
People want to dress
Yeah,
better.
really. It's like, oh yeah, I played with it. Oh yeah, it's like I was watching this documentary on Bob Dylan, the second one, not the one. And we were in the studio at Columbia, New York, and like Mike Bloomfield was sitting there. It's like baby faced little Mike Bloomfield. Oh yeah, I played with him, didn't I? It's like- and I went over to McCabe's here, and I said, "Do you guys remember when Mike Bloomfield we did a live album here?" And she said, "Yeah, I was there." She's like gray-haired old hippie, and she said, "Yeah, I was there." So whatever happened? She said, "Well, Rounder Records did the session, but I have no idea after that." Tracked it down, found it in like, some European,
Oh yeah.
just a little bit. And I'm buying drums from our guys from Ghana. He's in town, right? And he's out in the valley. And this guy's sitting there with him, and a friend of Sir Kaya's, and we introduced Hyden. He said, "Who did you play with?" And I went, "It doesn't matter." He said, No. Finally, I said, "Yeah," and I mentioned different people. And he goes, "Mike Bloomfield, that's where I know your name from." He says, "I've got all those live albums that you did with Mike Bloomfield."
Oh my God.
I hate to go, but
You got to go.
I got to pick up my dog.
Oh.
Okay. Is it like,
It's like 8:45.
My.
we're just getting started. No. Anyway,
Pleasure, pleasure.
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Is it good? Okay.
Having
Yeah.
very nice.
And did
Maybe
you,
I can
Safe
catch
trip.
him before we go back.
yeah, good,
Yeah.
good.
Thanks a lot.
Did you
Thank you.
do the workshop? Did you pay for the workshop?
No, how much is that?
$20. You want to put in $20?
No problem.
Okay, good. Now, we also close this down. Do you need, I would like to close the energy down before you leave. It takes about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that. Can we do that?
Here.
Because I don't want you walking out here.
Right?
Then you're free to go. Aye, 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 thank you, powers of the East. 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 Thank you, powers of the South. Thank you, powers Circle, draw round. Circle, draw round. Circle, draw round. Circle, draw round. Power ball down. Power ball down. Power ball down. Power ball down. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Protection surrounds. Sacred abound. Sacred abound. Sacred abound. Sacred abound. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Let the goddess dance. Hi-oh, wah-oh, Great Spirit, bless our endeavor. 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 Wah-oh, wah. Wah-oh, wah. Wah-oh, wah. Wah-oh, wah. Aye, 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 okay, big Annie. Okay, last one. Oh. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks again.
So are you traveling?
Pleasure.
Are you going back out to Chicago?
Not right away, but it's when she's ready for her test, and I go back. 'Cause we bought a house. I'm moving a house.
You're moving a house?
I'm moving everything out of a
Oh,
house
Oh,
to
wow.
a new house.
oh, great. Is this in
In
Chicago?
Chicago, right? Yeah.
What part of Chicago?
It's outside. They're going to. I don't know if you're familiar with Evergreen Park.
It's been a while, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's outside, so
Good. Good, good.
they're two different cultures.
Wow.
It's like two different countries.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well, I got relatives in East Chicago. You know,
know. Well, if you got Indiana, sure.
yeah,
certainly.
Elkhart was only
Yeah.
150 miles
Right,
from
right.
Chicago. So we were over there a lot. And that's where I heard jazz for the first time was in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah, cool.
You know, I think Chicago's a great city. I think it's a pretty town.
Certainly prettier than Manhattan now. Manhattan's a mess, but you know we have this little problem. They're starting to call it Chirac.
Oh.
You know, and that's on the south side. A lot of that is on the south side.
Yeah, well, it's
But we need a lot more of what we're talking about this evening.
good.
You know.
Yeah. Well, if don't rule it out. It's possible that I can get back out on the road and tour.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was out there doing this for the last 20 years, planting the downbeat, Johnny Appleseed.
I
Of the downbeat.
thought you'd moved to like Clearwater.
I go back and forth.
Okay.
I went to Clearwater High School, and that's a big area for me when I go back. And I go down there and do the sailboat drumming, full moon on the Dolphin sailboat, full moon drumming cruise. You know, we do that whenever I can.
Sounds great.
I was doing it every month for a while, flying in and doing it because it was so
Like
cool.
if you missed the hurricane.
Right. Well, you know, last one we got rained out on 2 months ago. We
Okay.
got rained out, and it was just a squall, but it's like,
You don't want to take any
Thank
chances.
you.
I gotta pick her up, otherwise we'll have.
Congratulations. It's
Thank you.
very nice
It's
meeting
been
you.
great to see you.
Nice to meet you.
And I've read about you. It's good to meet you.
Oh,
We'll see you guys
Yeah.
soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you and your
It's good
daughter,
playing
anytime
with
you want to come
too.
in to drum, the two of you,
That'd be
on a
terrific.
private session.
That'd be
We'll do that.
fantastic. All right.
Get
I
her
can
over
drag
this.
her in here.
Yeah. She'll like it once she's here.
Once we get going.
Okay, Chuck, take care. Yeah, he
Thanks,
was,
Yeah.
you know, had gotten the book years ago, and the first thing he said when he walked in was like, I read your book, and it motivated, inspired me to go get a drum. You know, and start playing drums. And then he was even more fascinated with the shaman kind of drumming. You know, and that was like just made my day. You know, it's like, wow.
See, put something out in the world that wasn't there before.
And he said he read my blog this morning. Like I put up a blog about drumming as performance art. Because I had to redefine drumming for myself because I was so locked up in the critical mind. So performance art was the way I could redefine it. So it wasn't music, it was performance art.
You know, I had talked about doing a one-woman show and writing stuff, and I keep thinking that I should be drumming while I'm doing it.
That's right. I saw that in you early on.
Did you?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and it's like for you to own that part of you, though, was a little bit of a stretch at that time, but not anymore.
Not so much.
No, now you're capable, because your stories and the drumming will be an inspiration and a model for people to see how to work through stuff. And you don't know necessarily the details of the effect on them, but just you doing it will have a very positive effect on people witnessing you doing this. It'll be entertaining, but there will be a deeper dynamic.
I'd certainly hope so.
You're capable. It's all ready for you to do that. Anytime you want to come in and work on doing that,
Thank you, because, you know, I'm thinking maybe I'll take out your book and reread it.
or just come in and we'll work on it. Work on your act.
Okay. That sounds good. All right, my darlings.
Great to see you, Sarah.
Great to see you too. It's so good to be here. God, I wanted this all summer. You know, I barely have been at the house. Last night I stayed up there for the first night, and I've had the house since May. But I'm just so busy at home, you know, and I don't know.
Well, you know, once you don't have the house, then you wish you did.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm trying to spend a little more time there. I wonder if that's something I could do. Get you guys up there one night after work. Do you think? Come over and I'll make a little dinner up at their house. Such a much bigger kitchen.
Oh, yeah, that's a great kitchen.
Sure.
Very great. All right, let's see what we can do. Get together in
So good.
a week or so. Oh, it's so good to see you.
You look great.
Thank you.
Thanks
You
for
both look great.
the feedback, you know, on the Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Sure. You look great.
It means a lot when people respond like that. You respond. Isn't that good?
Yes.
It's good looking. Good. You look good. No, you look great.
No.
Don't worry about it.
No,
Just you-
no worries.
Nothing to worry about.
All right, my darlings.
Good night.
Okay.
Good
Good to
night.
see you. See you soon.
Good to see you. I'll be back.
Been a active day.
Yeah? You kind of look like you've been out in the sun or something.
Yeah, I mean, I did the hip hop class this morning.
Oh,
and
wow.
I took Heather and two of her friends to Charnwood Park out in Malibu.
Oh,
Hiked all around there.
you had some exercise?
Came back to this. Yeah, I mean, I had already got my exercise, but I want Heather to get hers.
That's a good workout for you.
Yeah, so it was hot out there, but it was great. The breeze was coming in. It was, yeah, it was nice. And traffic wasn't bad. You know,
Good. Yeah, today's Tuesday.
we went out in the afternoon and came back. Business traffic's all going that way. It didn't even look that bad going that way, so but, so it's just. It's not crazy. The crazy day is gonna be Thursday. I have to figure out how to get to the Rose Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know whether to leave here at 5 and just eat a pizza on the way in the car or something.
What time is the concert?
7:30,
So you wanna get there at least an hour ahead?
probably. So maybe we should leave at 4. I don't know.
Going east,
Because I mean, yeah.
traffic
June
will
is-
be heavy at 5.
Yeah,
Traffic will be
be
heavy
heavy. So
at
I mean, it's
5.
probably heavy at 4, but
But, okay, now, I gotta call you on this, you said a pizza. Now, if you're talking about like diet and food and all
I
that
know.
kind of stuff.
Oh, I know.
I don't mean to butt,
it
I
has
was,
to be something.
pizza sounded really good.
Or maybe it'd be something like Bach fresh, or just something that we can eat in the car.
Yeah,
Bach
I
fresh,
know
like,
what you're
beans
saying,
and
but
rice.
I had to mention it.
Oh, I know. No, I believe me, I know.
Buddy.
Not that it's any of my business
No,
at all.
no, believe me, I know.
Well, Jim was talking about pizzas with tiny, thin crusts and all that stuff. You've gotten somewhere, I don't know where.
Yeah.
Never mind, I
No, it's not a big deal. I know, believe me, I know. I never eat this stuff, to be honest. Actually, I used to eat it at the men's book club, but we would get it without cheese, just get all the vegetables and sauce on it. It was great.
That sounds pretty.
Then you don't get all the fat, then it's not a bad, but the girls will be pretty sad. Plus they get it all over.
How many of Heather's friends are going?
2 of them,
Oh,
Same two
you're
that
so nice.
same 2 that went hiking today.
Oh, great.
So,
It's such a nice
I mean,
dad.
oh, thank you. Yeah, it's one of their birthdays, so
Oh,
my parents said she could go for her birthday.
how sweet.
But if I'd known, the other thing you can do, I heard, is you can go to restaurants in Pasadena and then catch a shuttle, but I already paid for a parking pass.
Oh,
Otherwise, that would have been a good.
yeah,
I mean, it might still be a way to go, but you still got to fight the traffic to get to Pasadena. so
Right,
what's that?
right. Yeah.
Then you got to worry about catching a shuttle.
I would leave it for.
I think leave it for,
Leave it for it.
and then if we get there, we will get there hopefully early, and we can
Get a bite there.
there. I don't know where. We're going. I guess they just serve food there. Whether-
You can
Or we could bring it with.
look into it. Yeah, bring a picnic. Bring a picnic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think leave it for, so.
Then